Item number 9, proclamation recognizing Memorial Day 2019. Holly Williams, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning. I move the following proclamation recognizing Memorial Day 2019. Whereas Memorial Day was originally known as Decoration Day, and May 30th, 1868 was set as a day when Americans were urged to decorate the graves of those who died in the Civil War. And whereas Decoration Day was expanded after World War I to honor all those who served in all American wars. And whereas it was officially renamed Memorial Day and declared a federal holiday to be observed on the last Monday of May each year by an act of Congress in 1971. And whereas we can celebrate more than 243 years of freedom through the effort of millions of American and Canadian veterans who served bravely and faithfully on battlefields throughout the world. And whereas more than 98,000 veterans and their dependents call the Pikes Peak region home, and whereas the loved ones of all veterans, living or deceased, should be extremely proud of their efforts, and whereas all El Paso County residents should join in the pride and appreciation for all veterans' service to our country and are encouraged to support them on this special day and every day. Now, therefore, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners recognizes the service, the sacrifice of countless men and women in uniform and their families, and proclaims May 27, 2019 as Memorial Day in El Paso County, Colorado. Done this 23rd day of May 2019 at Colorado Springs, Colorado, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Chairman Mark Waller, Lojinos Gonzalez, Vice Chair, Stan Vanderwerf, Holly Williams, and Cammie Bremer, member, and attested to by Chuck Broerman, County Clerk and Recorder.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. We're going to open it up for public comment now. So if you'd like to speak on behalf of this resolution, please come down, and if you could, sign in and then state your name and you may begin.
Good morning, Commissioners. Marshall Bosworth, Veteran Service Officer. Thank you for these proclamations when you do them. I mean, it actually just shows how well you support our veterans of our community. And especially on this one, the sacrifices of the members of our armed forces who made that ultimate sacrifice to make this a great nation. And the family members that also have that sacrifice of losing that service member. So again, I just want to thank you very much for this proclamation, supporting the veterans of our county and supporting the family members as well.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Malkai. My husband served over 20 years in the military, 3 tours in Vietnam, and my husband was deceased 16 years ago. I'm very proud to be standing here and representing my husband. I do everything I can for a veteran that my health will allow me to, and my energy. I am also the president of the Military Society Widows here in Colorado Springs. There are about 50 of us that are members, active members now. I'm also president-elect of the National Society of Military Widows, which I keep pretty busy with everything. I'm also very active. I go to the Fort Carson council meetings on behalf of getting information from the veterans. I also attend Peterson Air Force Base, their RAO council meetings. I'm the vice chair of the Pikes Peak Veterans Council, and I want to thank you very, very much for your support for our veterans as well as our whole community. I've been a resident since 1971, so it's been here longer than most of you have been here yourselves. And I want to again thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this resolution? Sir, please come forward, and if you wouldn't mind, sign in and state your name, and you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Jack Casey. I'm with the Pikes Peak National Cemetery Support Committee, and I want to thank the commissioners for all the support for us getting one of the newest national cemetery in the United States functional, operational, and with approximately 700 burials to date. We only started in November, so it's a busy place. Mainly, I want to get into the public record, the information page that we have. We have a Facebook page, and it's called Support Committee at Pikes Peak National Cemetery. So literally, if you look up Pikes Peak National Cemetery on Facebook, you'll find us. It's an interactive Facebook page. You can ask questions. I can try to give answers. It's an outgrowth of the cemetery committee, where the main question I had to answer was, when are you going to get this cemetery done? Literally, me personally, when am I going to go out and start digging? So those are the tough questions I got. Now we still get a wide variety of questions. So we try to put out information, events at the cemetery, pictures of the cemetery. It's very photogenic during snow and incredibly photogenic with Pikes Peak, America's mountain, as the background. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this resolution? You may begin, sir.
My name is Bob Roper, and I usually come down for this proclamation and have for years. And we certainly appreciate the county's recognition of our service. We represent the Korean War veterans, and this is Nelson Padgett, the first vice president. And we're getting up there, some of us. The Korean War ended 66 years ago. And I served during the Korean War as a teenager, and then I didn't join. My father put me in there. And I was a sergeant at 19 in the Marine Corps, and I served inactively during the Vietnam War. I didn't have to go over. But some of our members are in their 90s and are also World War II veterans. And we're still hanging in there. We've lost a few, but we're still meet every month at the Elks Club, and we try to do good things for the community as well. And Nelson, do you want to say something?
No, I just like to say it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be anywhere, actually. I've only been a member for about a year, and it's just a great privilege. That's all I have.
Thank you. Sir, if you'd like to continue, please.
Well, we were invited down for the proclamation, and it was usually years ago given to us, but in the last few years it's been presented to us and then taken back, because we want to invite all of the county commissioners to come to our annual ceremony July 27th at Memorial Park downtown. And that's at 11:30 in the morning. And we'd love to have anybody come. And in past years, they've taken the proclamation back, and somebody from the board brings it back on July 27th. So that's, we're here, and we thank you for recognizing us.
Thank you, and I'm sure any one of us would be happy to come and read it on July 24th. In fact, I think I've done that
Yes?
over the years, so
Yes, you have.
I'm sure any one of us would be happy to do that. Anybody else like to speak on this resolution? Please, ma'am, come forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm Kathy Hanner. I am the secretary for the Pikes Peak Veterans Council. I am the commander for the Disabled American Veterans Auxiliary. And we wanted to make sure that you were invited to the Pikes Peak Veterans Ceremony. And it is at the Pikes Peak National Cemetery, May 27th at 11 a.m. And I know Mr. Gonzalez will have you there. And I believe Mr. Pico will also be there to read the proclamations. And I wanted to thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this proclamation? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it up here. Who would like to kick the discussion off? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I always, this one's a little more solemn because of the Memorial Day aspect of it, but I always look forward to all those days that where we get to remember our military because they are a vital role to our great nation. I, for one, am a veteran, and so I always remember all those that came before me. I have friends that did pass away in service during their times in the military, and so that is always something that you remember, and you never forget those people that sacrificed their lives. Since the formation of this great country, many countless service members have given their lives, the ultimate sacrifice for this great country and, for the preservation of this country. And so I don't ever want us to forget their memories. And so I ask everyone to remember, to enjoy their weekend, to enjoy Memorial Day weekend as we ask everybody to do, but to remember those that sacrificed and gave the ultimate so that this great country could persevere. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's now going to be one of my favorite quotes. It's a pleasure to be anywhere. That's awesome. But there's actually a moral in that story. Life is a gift. And when people give that gift in the defense of the nation so that others may live, that is the ultimate sacrifice. Over this weekend, in preparation for Memorial Day, I watched a TV program. It was on PBS, and it was just a tour of the national cemeteries that are outside the United States around the world. And I was very touched by that because we all know about the more famous ones that are on the northern coast of France. But you don't know about the 6 or so that are in Italy and the ones that are in the Philippines and in so many other places around the world with thousands and thousands of American citizens buried and honored in those places. It was really, it was actually a very touching thing. And they displayed several soldiers who had won the Medal of Honor, and they also displayed and showed several tombstones where the phrase was used, known but to God, because these are people that they were unable to identify. And that was also very touching. So I have one thing that happened to me in 2006. I was in Washington, D.C. I was active duty in the military at the time. I was wearing my Class A uniform. And I had about a 3-hour window between 2 meetings, so I decided to take the subway and go over to Arlington National Cemetery. It had been a while since I had been there. So when you walk in, I went to the left, and that was the part of the grounds that was being used for burials of lost soldiers for the Iraq War. And you could see about 6 or 8 burials that were recent. And there was a lady there, and she was kneeling in front of one of those tombstones, and she was crying. So I happened to walk by her, and she really needed somebody at that moment in time. So she came up to me, and she cried on my shoulder for about 10 minutes. That was another very touching moment for me. She didn't know me, but me and the uniform represented the nation to her at that time, and she needed to be consoled. And I had the opportunity to do that at that time. So this is a special holiday to remember the people that we've lost to defend the nation. And for those of us that are alive, that have served with them, I think it is appropriate for us to continue to honor them year after year. So I look forward to participating in several Memorial Day ceremonies to honor those that we have lost, who have fought to keep our nation free, so the rest of us can continue to enjoy the greatest gift given to us, which is our life. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bremer.
You know, I think so many times Memorial Day is celebrated as just the beginning of summer. And it's, you know, we pass resolutions and proclamations up here to bring recognition to important dates, important facts, important causes. And this is certainly one absolutely worthy of reminding that it's not just about the barbecues and the pool opening this weekend. It is about those who have given their lives serving our country and honoring and remembering them and those that they've left behind. And remembering that the only reason we do get to celebrate with picnics or whatever it might be is because those lives were given. It also happens to, in this community, most often fall on the week of a new class graduating from the United States Air Force Academy right here in our backyard. And those graduates are stepping out into an unknown world and hopefully we have best prepared them to also take that potential sacrifice very seriously. So congratulations to the class of 2019, I suppose. Wow. And may we also remember the celebrations and festivities for them this week as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been reflecting on how we honor military service recently. In the state legislature for a lot of years, we did Military Appreciation Day there. Obviously, we've done a lot of military appreciation in my time on the county commission here as well. I think it's almost because we do it so well now, it's hard to remember that hasn't always been the case for us in our nation's history, and quite frankly, in our nation's recent history. Ma'am, you were talking about your husband serving in the Vietnam War. I came home from Iraq in 2006. I'll bet my experience was significantly different than his was. We had been able to, out of the mistakes that were made during that era in our society, grow out of that and grow to a place where I got to come back and be taught probably better than I deserved. But in maybe your husband's circumstance, it wasn't quite the same way. I mean, it's to think about that. That was only maybe 50 years ago that those folks were coming back. And I can remember when I was in ROTC and the first Gulf War kicked off, and that was kind of the first major conflict we'd had since Vietnam. They actually didn't allow us to wear our uniforms to class during that time, or wear our uniforms on campus, because they were worried about maybe the blowback we would get based on experiences that they had understood and recognized coming out of the Vietnam War. So I think it's important for us to take a moment to just kind of step back and understand that we do a pretty good job of this now, but we should never, ever, ever take that for granted, because we're not that far removed from a circumstance where our military heroes weren't honored in the way that they were supposed to be honored. So I'll tell you, I think that this board does a good job of this, and I appreciate Commissioner Bremer's comments about this isn't just about the kickoff to summer and the barbecue season and things of that nature, but this is going to be one guy that moving forward makes sure that I take the time and the opportunity to not make this some proclamation that's just a matter of course that we do every year because it's what we're supposed to do or what we're conditioned to do. But I, for one, am going to make sure that as I move forward and honor the military, that I remember and understand that we aren't that far removed from a circumstance where we didn't do that, and I'm not going to take it for granted and make sure that we do it honorably every time. So thank you all for being here. Ma'am, in particular, thank you for bringing that legacy so that we could, as members of the military, in today's world, be honored, and certainly thank you for all you do to make sure that your husband is honored in the correct and appropriate way, and all those people out of the Vietnam era are honored in the correct and appropriate way, which enables all of us to have a much better experience than they experienced 50 years ago. So thank you all for that so much. With that, it's been moved and seconded. I am going to call, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Williams.
I haven't had my
I knew I was
chance
forgetting
yet.
something.
So first of all, we have 98,000 veterans here in El Paso County. That is amazing. I reflect on the life of service, the individuals who've gone to war, gone through Camp Carson, as my father did. He's a Korean War vet. Had the opportunity to meet Donald Stratton, just amazingly humble generation of individuals. There's nothing else you can say. I was just looking through my family tree. William Henry Williams served in the Civil War. He is buried in Tennessee. My uncles, Lionel and Marion Brown, were part of the war in the Pacific during World War II. My father-in-law, John Williams, served in the Navy. My stepfather-in-law, Dean Gustafson, served in the Air Force. But most importantly, my dad, who is 90, and we might not see him. This might be his last Memorial Day cemetery if he can make it to, or Memorial Day ceremony if he can make it to. Russell Olson Brown, he is a Korean War vet, proudly served every year on Memorial Day, has attended the Memorial Day ceremony for Korean War vets. And I'm so proud to be his daughter, and I'm so proud to still have him around for a few more months or another year maybe, but he's left a great legacy for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and sorry about that. Real quick, ma'am.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention one thing as you brought up about during that era. We have been told that our era was the teaching stone for the conflict of Afghanistan and Iraq. My husband, when he was over there, my son was only 4 years old and he was in preschool. I went to preschool to take him, or to pick him up, and he took his G.I. Joe to preschool, excited with all of his little treasures of his G.I. Joe. The instructor there told me, ma'am, you need to teach your son something different with G.I. Joe other than with a gun. And I was very, very upset because I went into my hometown and it was so anti-Vietnam. When my husband came home, my son ran right to him, and he was only 2 years old on the second tour of Vietnam. 50 years ago, the Society of Military Widows started. It started by a woman whose husband was on the Arizona, and he's still there. I met last year a woman whose husband has been declared missing since 1969, and she still has not had any information other than about her husband. My heart goes out to all of these ladies because of that reason. Her son, 52 years old, was standing with her and never got to meet his father. So I am part of that era, and I stand up proudly because I know how those men were treated. And as a spouse, I was treated the same way.
Thank you so much for that. All right, with that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Bremer.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. We will stand in recess for a picture.